Are Aberdeen sleepwalking into a relegation battle? Is the favourites tab a help or a hindrance to Hearts? Plus VAR, what is it good for? I'm Charlotte Cohen, and ably assisted by Robbie Neilson and John Walker, we'll be tackling all of the big issues in Scottish football. Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Wednesday the 25th of February. Dundee United fight out a difficult draw on a heavy pitch, but Jim Goodwin had no complaints.
Can't have any arguments about the scoreline, but really pleased with what the players gave in terms of that commitment and that resilience at times, because defensively we've been a little bit fragile of late, and tonight to get the clean sheet, hopefully that will give the back lads a wee bit of confidence.
It's taken months and months, but Hearts are now the bookies' favourite to win the league. Is that a help or a hindrance?
Kizaridis with the reverse pass, deflection, goal! Islam Chesnikov for Hearts right on half-time.
Another weekend and another raft of VAR controversies. Are we getting it wrong in Scotland?
It was Cammy Kerr with the challenge. Does he get any of the ball there? The answer is no. A huge call in this title race.
We've got all of the Scottish football angles covered right here.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
And alongside me to chat about all of this, Robbie Neilson, currently assistant head coach at Lommel in Belgium. Robbie, morning. How's it going over in Belgium?
Morning, Charlotte. Yes, all good out here, thanks. Season's been going well, sitting third, so looking forward to the run-in now.
Good stuff. And alongside us, John Walker, football analyst. John, you'll have been kept busy recently.
Yeah, very busy covering a lot of games.
Good stuff. Well, let's just crack on, because although last night's match doesn't really give us much to talk about, 0-0, Robbie, do you think that helps either of them? I mean, it's a point on the board, but it's still kind of as you were for both of these teams.
Probably not, to be honest. I watched the game and it was one that the pitch was very, very difficult. Obviously, a lot of the issue with the weather up there made it very difficult, but both teams looked as if they were a bit flat and probably would have accepted the point before the game just to make sure they didn't get beaten. It's slightly disappointing for both teams if that's the kind of the way it looked in the attitude.
Yeah, John, Robbie mentions the pitch. I mean, we've seen call-off after call-off, for both sides, on both of their pitches, to be fair, and the managers mentioning in their post-match about the difficulties of playing on that pitch, but just how much of a difference does that actually make for teams?
Yeah, I mean, you see it in the game. It's a much more direct game than I'd expect Aberdeen to have played with Peter Levin. It's a much more direct game, to be fair to Jim Goodwin, than he had been playing probably November, but to both coaches, I don't think there's been a day in Scotland since November, but it's not rained heavily, so I don't really know what you're meant to do about that. It's just par for the course. I mean, you can go on about the pitch, but I still don't understand how Kevin Nisbet's missed that chance in the second half.
It's not the pitch's fault. Well, I mean, just looking at the points then, because if either of these teams are thinking about that they still have a chance of top six, they're, I think, 9 behind Falkirk. Aberdeen are 10 behind. Robbie, I mean, we're kind of running out of games to make up these points and running out. I suppose both of these teams running out of games for Falkirk to start dropping points.
I'll be honest, I don't see either of them making the top 6 now. I think Falkirk are too good. I think John McGlynn's put together a really strong team there, and they're continually picking up points. And I think they'll definitely be looking up the way rather than down the way. So I just don't see them picking up enough points between now and the end of the season to get into that top 6.
John, relegation battle then for either of them?
I don't think either of them. I think Aberdeen will be absolutely fine, but like that being said, definitely not making top 6. Aberdeen play 5 of the top 6 just now in their next 6 games before the split, so I don't even see where Aberdeen's game against St Mirren, however, in 5 games time could be the one that decides whether they get in a relegation zone. I just don't see where Aberdeen pick up points between Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, Falkirk.
I just wonder then, because, I mean, Aberdeen coming off the back of that Scottish Cup win, I mean, that feels like a lifetime ago now, but I mean, Robbie, how if they finish in the bottom 6, finish 6th or 7th, how do fans view this season as a whole?
Well, I think obviously it's a huge disappointment after not building on the Scottish Cup win in the summer there. But, it seems to me from looking from the outside, it looks as almost as if the season's been written off already and it's now just looked towards next season. I think the chairman's spoken about taking their time, getting a manager in. It looks like it'll probably be in the summer now before they bring someone in to give them the chance to build. So, they're probably sitting in a position just now. They know they're not going to get top six, just ensuring they don't get drawn into that relegation battle, which I don't think they will. I think, they'll have enough just to stay out with that. But yeah, if I was a fan of Aberdeen, I'd be hugely disappointed because you're going to these last, 9-10 games and there's nothing really to look forward to.
I do wonder, because you mentioned, Robbie, the manager situation. They did have a candidate in mind that seems to have fallen through due to, they say, unforeseen circumstances. First of all, how hard is it to appoint a manager?
I think it's, like I've said before on this, I think that when a team is doing well, sporting director, CEO, whoever it is, technical director should have a list of 3 or 4 managers that are available and are obtainable. It's okay saying you have a desired list of managers, but we could say John could be a technical director at a club and say my 3 most desirable are Mourinho, Guardiola and Klopp. But if you're sitting in the 3rd division of Scottish football, then it's not obtainable. So I think that, you'd expect them to have someone where the manager's doing well or he's not doing well so they can make that quick change. So, I think it's just causing a lot of instability within the club. And, I think the sooner they get someone in, the better. But it looks as if they're just, the season's a write-off at the moment.
What about Dundee United then, John? Because Robbie says Aberdeen's season's kind of turning into a bit of a write-off. United would have started this season thinking top 6, pushing for Europe, finishing as high up the table as we can, and now it's kind of maybe looking behind them and making sure they don't get dragged into that relegation fight.
I just think we're kind of blessed. I think we focus very highly on the top 4. I think honestly, for as long as I've watched, this is the most I've watched Scottish football for a full season. I watch every game that's on and I'll pick up games off a Y-Scout and watch them. It's the best the overall league's been, like by an absolute country mile. The types of football that's being played from Falkirk, Motherwell, it's just such an impressive league. David Gray's work at Hibs is going so unnoticed because of how good Motherwell and Falkirk are performing. So I think when you look at Aberdeen, Dundee United, and you go, what's happening? St Mirren after winning the League Cup have completely fallen away. The league's too good. This is why this is probably another counter argument to the league being bigger now. Is the league's so good that you're going to get teams that are just getting dragged into relegation battles because it's so close together that there's no really other alternative. I just think it's that. I think Dundee United have just been met with a Falkirk team that came up and continued their momentum, so they've kind of taken maybe their place as being the team that climbed. Motherwell, with their 2 appointments, we're talking about how important a managerial appointment is. Motherwell have nailed 2 in a row, because when Wimmer came in, they were excellent. They were one of the best teams to watch in the league. I enjoyed seeing them at Ibrox when they won. So Motherwell have jumped above everyone's expectations, and then Hearts have obviously had the investment and appointed Derek McInnes, which is always a very, very intelligent manager to put in charge of a domestic campaign. I just think it's that. I think Dundee United, Aberdeen, St Mirren have just been really unlucky that this has been the best SPFL season and the worst to get your pitch problems, to have injuries, to have recruitment issues, and then managerial drop-offs for Aberdeen. I think it's just a bit of perfect storm for those 2 teams.
I wonder, John, how much of that you think the quality of the league this season is down to Celtic and Rangers underperforming as well. Do you think that's had a role to play, or do you think it is just, as you say, these other teams performing so much better?
I think it's other teams are better. I think the quality of player we get in this league's better, the quality of coaching they're getting in the league's better, the quality of academy players coming through to push the first team players is getting better. I think because you're seeing so many academy players in England being used and dropping into like the National League in England, that's a really easy pick-up for teams like St Mirren, Motherwell to get those type of players who have maybe been dropped. And then I think what you see is what I've always felt with Scottish football is people like Elliot Watt. See if you give players the licence to play football and get on the ball and get 80, 90 touches a game, you'll see how good the quality is in Scottish football. Because I used to go down and watch training at like League 2, Tier 5, and blown away by the technical ability of footballers. I couldn't believe how good the football was in the country, to what probably a bit disrespectful, to what I tended to feel like I watched when I went and watched games on Saturday. It felt very second ball, it felt very direct, and it always was like, why are people not playing more football? Falkirk, Motherwell, Hibs starting to do it. and you're seeing them in the top six and challenging. And so I don't think obviously there's been a bit of a drop off for Rangers and Celtic, but I think it's more the league's just better.
Reminder that the latest episode of the Scotland Rugby podcast is available now, looking back at the thrilling victory in Cardiff at the weekend and available on BBC Sounds. Just search for Scotland Rugby Podcast. Right, well, John was mentioning the quality of the league. Let's talk about the leaders then, Hearts, because, Robbie, it's taken months, but after the weekend results, they are officially the bookies' favourites to win the league. What do you make of that tag on a team challenging for the title?
Yeah, I think, as the seasons went along, everyone has been like, when will they fall away, they fall away? But the quality of the player they've brought in, through the link with Tony Bloom and Brighton, has allowed them, when they do get the injuries, the quality of player coming in has allowed them to be consistent and continue to pick up points. And I think the other side of it as well, Rangers and Celtic have, come down from the previous standards of the last few seasons, whether it be defensively or attacking wise as well. So it's allowed Hearts to get in that position. But I still think there'll be twists and turns throughout the season. I think this weekend coming up is going to be huge within the league. I think if Hearts can beat Aberdeen, and then that will then put pressure in both of the old firm teams, because the team that loses is almost out the race. It could be. So I still think it's quite a lot of twists and turns. And once you get that target on your back as the bookies' favourite, teams, Aberdeen on Saturday, not a lot of pressure on them, as we spoke before. They're probably not going to get top six, probably not going to go down, so they can go there and have almost a free hit. So it's we'll see how they handle it now. Yeah,
John, Robbie mentions target on their back. Derek McInnes seems to really enjoy this narrative of like everybody's looking and waiting for us to slip up. But they've not done it yet. But do you think that is sustainable? I mean, they've sustained it up until February, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Derek McInnes knows how to win games in this league. He's challenged Celtic when Rangers went in the league. He challenged Celtic when Rangers came back in the first season. Derek McInnes knows how to at least put a challenge together. It's just whether Derek McInnes can take the titles that he's won in the Championship and figure out a way how to put that into an SPFL Premier League campaign. I quite like the way that he's went about it. I quite like he's went from anyone but us and everyone hates us, everyone wants us to fail, because I think it's quite a smart unifying way to get your players on board, is that everyone dislikes us outside of this changing room, so we need to make sure. I think the target thing's 100% real. It's the first time I went to Ibrox to play Hearts and felt like this is the team that are going to win the league that we need to beat if we're going to win this league. I don't think I've ever been to a Rangers Hearts game, even under the George Burley early bits, where I felt that way. So they are the favourites. I think they've earned that. I think grinding out late results, I know it's quite cliche to say that's Championship form, but I seen Rangers on Sunday not being able to do that at Livingston.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the big things that I feel with it is that, historically with Rangers and Celtic, they would have seasoned winners within their team. Guys that know how to go over the line. They've won 6, 7, 8 championships within their career, maybe not at that club, but throughout it. Gone are the days where, they know how to go over the line. All 3 clubs now are pretty novice to doing it because of the turnaround in the squads, which I think is a huge benefit for Hearts.
Yeah, and I suppose Hearts have got, not, as you say, not got these seasoned winners, but they do have players who will be desperate to win the league and give something back to their supporters and kind of get one over on the two old firm teams. I mean, Robbie, you'll know players like Lawrence Shankland, they're missing him, Cammy Devlin, but they're still proving that without these key players, they're managing to put results together. They've got the depth to be able to go out and win games even without the likes of Shankland and Cammy Devlin.
Well, I think it goes back to the kind of, Shankland comes out and Braga's scoring goals, but when you look at, the goals that have scored, Rangers' 2 top goal scorers this season, Sharmiti on 7, Tavernier on 7, that Celtic one player, it's Negrin on 14. Hearts have got Shankland on 11, who's missed a lot of games. They've got Braga on 11. They've got, I think Halkett and what's the big lads? The Finley's got 5. So they've got goals all throughout the team. So they're not relying on one player. Which hence the reason when Shankland went out potentially 2-3 years ago before they had this really strong squad. If Shankland went out, that was a title challenge gone because they didn't have goals. But they've got a great squad now that can do that. Whereas you look at Rangers and Celtic, if Negrin comes out of the team, who's scoring the goals? Or if Negrin has a bad day, who's scoring the goals? whereas Hearts have got that in the background.
That's my issue, Robbie. See if Rangers had Braga to call on and put in their starting 11, I would be so confident with the title. I think when I watch Braga, Hearts have got the best 2 strikers in the league. Like Rangers and Celtic are watching teams where they're looking at their centre forward and saying things like, he held the ball up quite well today. His link-up play was okay. And then I watched Braga come to Ibrox, and almost every touch he does is perfect. Everything he does is technically sound. Yeah. He's got pace. And that is where the frustration comes in. And that's where I think the lack of confidence maybe is on the Rangers side, is we're just going, I don't know if Braga and Shankland are fit and Hearts are top at the split, I don't see how you dispose Hearts.
I agree. I think that the swing of goals for and goals against from last season to this season has been massive. When you look at Hearts, I think they're like per game, it's almost a +1 when you look at their for and against goals. Where Celtic are almost minus 1.5, so it's like a huge swing. It's only 2 goals, over the course of a season. 2.5 goals almost per game, between the two of them. So yeah, I think I agree with Johnny. Hearts have got goals in their team, and goals will win the championship.
And it's funny to think Tony Bloom coming in the summer and saying, within the next 10 years we want to be really challenging for this title, and he's got it in less than 1. So it's good going. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, John, we kind of touched on it with Robbie. If these players come the split, if you say they're top of the league, they've got Shankland, they've got Devlin back, if they have the mentality to sustain this all the way until the end of the season,
I think they do. Honestly, the parallels, I know there's a lot of like West Coast bias chat on certain media channels, etc. It's just a recency confirmation bias. Like I seen it all with Leicester in 2016 when Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea were all challenging them. And everyone said all the same things. They can't do it. They've not got title winners in their team. They don't know how to go over the line. Claudio Ranieri hasn't won a league. All those same things, all the same rhetoric. Leicester had a bit of a blip, went through a couple of injuries, had to survive a few games without Jamie Vardy. They got into the run-in for the last 5 games and they had everyone available. And it just felt like Leicester were never giving it up. And they won that title. If Hearts have a 4-point buffer going into the split with Shankland, Halkett, Finlay, Braga, all fit, Devlin coming back, Hearts don't slip up as far as I'm concerned. I think if they've got everyone fit and can keep them fit for 5 games, Hearts will win the league.
I just think it's like, the question is not the Hearts have the mentality when it's the Rangers and Celtic have the mentality. That's the big question, because we don't know.
And I think also, Robbie, with that is the fans. Like I've been going to Rangers for 30 years now, and there's not really you're probably going on about 20%, 25% of the fan base haven't really experienced a proper title race that was kind of going to the last day of the season, having to grind out wins, having to beat Inverness 1-0 in the last minute to keep in a title race. They don't really have experience of how like anxiety driven and horrible it can be to go to games and just stick with it and just go with it. I think there's an element of that where Rangers need to, I mean, I'm the same now, like even going through all that, I feel like I need to go and watch Rangers and be 2-0 up and be like, but I've not experienced, there's not been a Rangers game where Rangers have been two goals up in 60 minutes at home and been comfortable all season. So it's like, do the fans have that drive to go forward with them as well? I think it's such a big thing, because a big thing with energy. I've never seen that at Ibrox for a Rangers Hearts game, and I think that's what dragged Rangers out from behind twice, was fans just going with the energy and sticking with it. But if you're playing another team at home where it's not as high stakes, do we have that when it's 1-1?
Yeah, and that's where it comes down to the players' experience to get over the line in these games, which I'm not sure they've got.
But let's talk about VAR, because this chat has been very positive so far. So let's drag it back down. We haven't actually spoken a huge amount of about VAR on the podcast, but it just kind of feels like it's getting to the point where it is becoming unavoidable to talk about it. So we'll start with Austin Trusty's red card. Celtic appealed it. That appeal was very quickly dismissed. Robbie, I'll come to you about it first, because Celtic's statement was quite aggy. They mentioned about the referee saying that nothing had happened before going over to speak to VAR. You've got Cal McGregor coming out and saying that it should have never been a sending off. Did you think it was a red card, first of all?
I didn't think it was a red card, no. I don't think it was. I think there's that. It's difficult because, we're getting a stage at the moment where the referee is in the stadium, in the environment, in the intensity, and then you have the guys on VAR are in 60 miles away in an office where there's no intensity, so they don't feel the game. The referee's got to be allowed to referee the game, and if he sees the incident, which Celtic are saying he said he did, then that should be it, So for me, there's always physicality within the game. People grab each other, people push each other. That's just the nature of the game. It's got to be like that. It's physical, But I just feel that at times VAR is intervening in certain situations that they don't feel the game. They don't feel the intensity of the game, the speed of the game, the passion of the game, because it's, John was talking about the Rangers Hearts game. That would be at times a physical game. But if you're sitting watching it in an office 60 miles away, you don't feel that tension, you don't feel the passion, because the players feed off the crowd, they feed off the energy. So sometimes things they start to escalate a little bit. And that's where a good referee can bring it back down again and push it back up and accept they can feel the intensity of the stadium to go, you know what, maybe on another day this might happen, but I'm going to go with this at this moment. But it's not happening at the moment because the VAR's getting involved too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, John, one of the other questions is, just on what Robbie said, do you think referees are kind of maybe relying a bit too heavily on the fact that they can kind of hold off on making a decision or not make a decision and know that VAR will either bail them out or tell them what to do?
It feels a little bit like that with the Rangers thing. I mean, I am kind of probably 75% the trusty thing is I think there's probably more aggression than needed to be to get somebody off your arm at a corner, especially when the corner wasn't ready to come in. But also the ref is looking straight at the instant, and it's an instant that will happen a lot. I've seen it with Chimity in the Old Firm. The only thing I can think of is that the VAR has thought, or the other referee, we'll call him the other referee because it's not this weird object. It's another official that gets paid to do his job that felt that it was overly aggressive. I'm with Robbie. I think if you're in the game and you've seen it, that used to be the directive, was that if the ref had seen it, that's fine. And I think the ref was looking straight at it, was going to talk to both players. If he talks to both players... For me, it's always, why get yourself involved in a headline that is completely unavoidable? See, if the ref in Livingston gives a free kick and books the player, doesn't send them off, Rangers get a free kick, we probably don't even talk about the decision. Probably never discussed. If the ref talks to Trusty and books him, probably don't talk about the incident at all. And it just feels like all these incidents that happen become headlines because there doesn't seem to be any common sense on, like, why get yourself involved in a headline? Just let it go. Let it go and see what comes next. But if you're sending people off for things, it's going to be the main headline because clubs are then going to want to appeal. Same with Richard King. If you book Richard King for swinging his arm, although he doesn't make contact, you never hear of it again. You don't hear about it, and it's all these little decisions. And I think it's all well and good Willie Collum coming on the VAR show and going through all these. He should bring his refs on and see what the refs think of the incident and what happened in the incident, rather than just playing their audio, so we can understand maybe like what is going on, like how is it? Because it's not our country. It's every country that's got VAR. You've seen it with the Aston Villa Newcastle. A handball 5 yards inside the box is missed by officials that don't have VAR, that are full-time refs, because, like you said, they are literally going, could somebody tell me if that was inside? Like, there's two of you watching it. One of you tell us if it's inside. So I think it's both.
I think that's one of the problems, is because if the more you rely on VAR as a referee, the less willing you are to make decisions. Ultimately, the referee should be the main decision maker on the pitch, from a refereeing perspective. But I just feel that because the more VAR gets involved, and we would all be the same, if you're refereeing and you're not sure, you don't make the decision. Whereas previously it would make a decision. If it was a right decision, fair enough, it's the wrong, and then potentially VAR would get involved after that. But I just feel now it's like incidents are happening and referees aren't making the decisions because they're almost, it's becoming the norm to wait for VAR.
I would love to know as well what the referees do with their matches and analysis. I was coaching an under-20s game 2 weeks ago, Robbie, and the referee asked me for a copy of the video and asked me about a couple of his decisions and what I thought of them because he wanted to watch it back. I was a 22-year-old ref at under-20s on a Friday night, and I was just like, I wonder if the guys that are getting paid £1,200 go through the same kind of analytical process of their decision-making and what they thought.
I know they do actually, they do. They have their meetings and they go through it and they review it all. So, they're all trying to improve, which is as we all need to do, and it's great. For me, it's more, the more involved VAR gets, the less responsibility goes on the decision-making process. Then that's going to continue to escalate until we get back to VAR only being involved in, minimum incidents. Then it puts more responsibility on the referee to make decisions, and then their decision-making will get better because, they have to make a decision.
I wonder, Robbie, you're obviously, I think, away from all the VAR, thankfully, in your football, but I just wonder what the narrative is like in Belgium in general about VAR. I mean, it seems like in Scotland, we're constantly talking about it. It's constantly in the news. I wonder if you've kind of had an eye on the refereeing and VAR in general in the kind of grander football scheme in Belgium.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't speak Belgian, so it's generally the media that speak mostly about it. So I've no idea. To be honest with you.
You need to learn some Flemish.
Yes, I watch the games and they obviously you see the mistakes, but I couldn't tell you whether they think they're great or they think they're terrible.
Yeah, well.
So, sorry.
That's okay. Maybe it's just as bad as it is here.
I think maybe it's just as good as it is here.
Yeah, you never know. Well, just the kind of general debate. I mean, it feels like, as I said, every week we're talking about it. But John, you mentioned about how tight the league is, how competitive the league is, how tight this title race is. You wonder if the debate is maybe just also a function of just how tight this league is, how everybody's wanting to pick up points, how everybody's looking for a reason a game's gone against them.
Maybe, yeah, but that's always existed though. Like I've seen Rangers managers my whole life debate refereeing decisions before VAR came in, so that's just human nature that you're going to look for any. Everyone felt they evened it out, or it went against them, or you never got a penalty at Man United. It was all those little rhetoric points that were existing before VAR. So I don't think it's removed any of that controversy or any of that debate. I just think it's switched it to we're now looking at who another official is. It's not just who the referee is, it's who's going to be in VAR though, and you then have all these personality-driven agendas that have previously been existing, and it just becomes pretty ludicrous. I think they should just bring the referees out in a mask on a Sunday and don't announce who they are and just chuck them into the game so nobody can spend 4 days trying to find pictures of their family and what team they might have supported as a kid. It's just, I've always kind of separated myself from that and just I've been in football long enough down the levels to know that, like, whether they support Rangers, Celtic or otherwise, the referees are going to referee. Like, it's their job. It's their job. I don't go into my job being a Rangers fan. I go into my job doing my job.
I know. Do you know what's really amazed me in the last 6 months is that previously Celtic fans thought all referees were Rangers fans. Rangers fans thought all referees were Celtic fans. But now Rangers and Celtic think all referees are Hearts fans. Amazing
so
how it's changed. It's amazing in the last
referees. Well, it feels like we could talk about this forever and never come to any sort of conclusion, but that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to John and Robbie, and thank you very much for listening. Remember, you can catch the Challenge Cup semi-final action, Airdrie up against Wraith Rovers on BBC Alba at 7:35 this evening. And we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.